about a week ago, Jeff went up to the tower and removed the preamp that had a lot of gain and replaced it with one that had a little gain. Things did improve somewhat, I believe. So lately we have been doing a great deal of testing trying to figure out where this noise is coming from. And what we found is we are actually hearing various other repeaters on our own bleeding into our receiver. So the question is, what do we do about that? And I am looking at a number of solutions, one of which is to put the old Vertex repeater back in place. And another one being to, at some point, procure a bandpass filter that we can put on the receiver that will prevent anything other than 146.220 from coming through into the receiver. The other problem we have right now is Echolink is down because the Raspberry Pi didn't come back up in a good state when it was power cycled. So at some point, I'm going to have to go up and reset the Raspberry Pi up there, and I was going to do it this week, but given what all went on this week, it was, in my work schedule, it was pretty difficult. So I may see if I can go sometime this weekend. And that's really what I have.
Let me, as I understand it, Stephen, right, you're looking at replacing the Raspberry Pi with something a little more stable, like a small desktop.
Okay.
I think Jeff was talking about that, because the Raspberry Pi just won't, just won't cut it.
Well, yeah, that's
FYI.
I mean, if Jeff was talking about that, then it's news to me.
FYI, Stephen, I ordered some of those buck converters to replace the power supply on the Raspberries. So they're on their way to Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Well, that all sounds good.
My experience with pies is that if it's flaky, it's either overheating or power starved. Those are really the two things that keep it from running properly.
Yeah, and the problem is the USB sound card that we're using to interface with a repeater controller apparently sometimes requires more power than the existing adapter can give.
Okay. Yeah, as you may or may not be aware, especially on our Sunday night nets, we've been having a lot of problems the past month with interference. We've actually not been able to have a net from time to time because of it. But so we are working on this to get this resolved as quickly as possible. So please do bear with us, and hopefully we'll have another good Sunday like we did last week. We got lucky and the stars aligned correctly. So
otherwise, we got to name it the Occasional Sunday Night Net.
What's that?
You got to change the name to the Occasional Sunday Night Net.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, thanks, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Thanks for letting us know and keeping us up to date on that. I'm going to turn it over to Rob now, our programs chairman, to take it away for tonight's program.
Great. And I'm going to try and embarrass Jim over here. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. So yeah, Jim Reed, who you can see on the screen there, Jim R, N4BFR, is going to be our presenter with a program called So You're a Licensed Ham, Now What? And I know, I can tell you my first weekend, well, it wasn't just my first weekend, but when I got the radio, I had no idea what to do with it. Plus, I was afraid to use it. So it's going to be good that he's going to give us that information. I see there's a KO call on there, Rebecca, so you might be fairly new. So what I've got for a bio for Ham, just to tell you a little bit about Jim, is according to this, he's been a ham since 2008. 2008, Jim. Okay, and I got him beat by a whole year.
I was originally KI4FIK. KJ4FIK.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right. Jay the next year. He's past president of the ARC for 2 years, a couple of years ago. He is last year, or the current ARC Ham of the Year, for all the good stuff he still does for the club. And, you know, so I was going to say something about you running the election committee, but I think I'm not going to talk about election committees right now. So just leave that. You're still, I guess, the assistant emergency coordinator for Atlanta Aries, right? For the emergency service.
If you say so.
I'm just taking it off of your
Okay.
page
My
on
QRC?
Yeah. Which
Sure.
it's not necessarily true. It's just what you want us to think.
I have been an assistant emergency coordinator from time to time.
And you're a VE. You give the ham radio test, right, on 3 different services: ARRL, KVIC, and Laurel.
Mhm.
So you're testing people and helping them get their license. That's always a good thing. You've been on National Parks on the Air several times. I won't go into the details here, but it looks like 3 different parks on there. And you operated out of the Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands. I've got that on here. In fact, right, this was Newt in the Cayman Islands, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you've got 2 awards here. You've got 3, but I don't think you have the 3rd one. The DXCC, that's the DX Century Club that's working 100 different countries, right, over DX, over HF. And you've got the Worked All States. Is that 50 plus territories, or just the 50?
Just the 50.
Just the 50.
Yeah, well, that's enough. I think I'm going to.
I have
Worked All South.
I have a few of the territories, but not all of them. I don't think I have a Guam.
That's pretty cool. That is very, and you've got, I guess you're waiting for the WAC award because you don't have a number next to it. And
They don't give a number for that one, I don't think.
Oh, so you have it. Worked all countries?
Yes. Yep. Worked all continents.
All continents.
Yep. And that includes you're not required to get an Antarctica to work all continents, but I have one.
So you're pretty experienced. I mean, that's why one of the things that makes you a great presenter is you've done a bunch of different. Hold on, here I got my assistant program director here. Anyway, let me put him down, put her down. So without further ado, a man who needs no introduction, but he got one anyway. Turning over to N4BFR. Go ahead, Jim, take it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rob. I appreciate it. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun on ham radio. I think that's what that all boils down to. So I'm excited to be talking about this today. And this actually came out of, I'm trying to remember if it came out of a meeting or a Sunday night net, but one of those two. We were talking about ideas for programs, and somebody said, wow, what if we did a new ham program? So that's what we're going to do tonight. And I put this together, and somebody gives me a thumbs up that you can see my screen. Okay, good. So I don't have a ton of slides, plan to talk more than show. This is not a technical primer, so I'm not going to go over the band plans and which radio I think you should pick, because a lot of those are personal decisions. But I am going to go through the ways you can reach out into different areas and learn more about the things you may want to be interested in once you really kind of get going with ham radio. So this is basically a 6-step checklist for 6 things you can do as you're getting started in ham radio. And as Rob mentioned, we have some newer hams here. We have some really experienced hams here, more experienced than I am. We have some people who aren't even hams yet. So let's jump in and talk to the folks about those. If you have questions, definitely glad to hear them. And if you have comments, yeah, jump in and let's make this interactive, because I don't know everything, but I think I pulled together some good stuff to at least spur on some conversation. So off we go. thought it might be good to start off with a question from the technician exam, since this is where most new hams are starting from. And this question is about call signs. When is an amateur station required to transmit its assigned call? We know, a lot of us know from being on nets or being on 80 meters or whatever, that sometimes you get a lot of people, somebody says their call at the end of every transmission, and that's fine. Sometimes you'll get somebody going on a 20-minute rant or being net control and just not thinking about it and not giving their call sign frequently enough. So I'll give you one more second to think about which one of these answers it is. And it is D. Oh, there's the repeater telling us it's call sign. So there we go, every 10 minutes. So it's at least every 10 minutes during and at the end of a communication. So there are folks who like to rag you on HF, and they actually have a little box that lights up after 8 or 9 minutes to remind them to give their call sign. So every 10 minutes. And for me, I would like to just kind of leave a piece of advice that when you look at this, it just says you're required to give your call sign. It doesn't say you also have to say for ID, because if you're giving your call sign, you're doing it for ID. There's no real reason to reinforce that. It's like saying I'm going to the store to go to the store. You're going to be doing that. So just a little tip from a friend on that one, and hopefully that'll settle in with you. So congratulations, you now have a license to learn. We're going to talk about 6 things that you can get involved with in the next 6 months to really understand a lot of the deeper things that are available in ham radio, and how can you pick a thing that may be yours, or you can pick something that you're interested in now, and 2 years from now, you'll pick something else, but you'll know it's out there, because ham radio is truly a hobby where you can go a mile wide and an inch deep, or an inch wide and a mile deep. There are things like emergency communications, as Rob mentioned. There's DX, contesting, satellites, Morse code, kit building, low power, high power. All of those are different genres of things that people do in ham radio. You could spend all your time getting an amp, building it, and building the perfect antenna. You could spend all your time building radios, repairing old, we call them boat anchor, Halcraft radios or whatever. So there's a subgenre for everybody, and that's kind of what makes it interesting. Is everybody's a little bit different. I see different people on here, and I know that, for instance, David KJ4CMY, he likes to do a lot of 2-meter 440, not as active on HF, I don't think, but he has a great experience with old Air Force HF stuff. So I can ask him about military communications and that kind of thing. N4EWT is a Morse code guy. And if I want to learn about Morse code, I've got an Elmer there I can go to and talk to him about what's going to, what I need to do to learn, or how I could do QRP, because I know he's also a low power guy. My example would be, I like to DX. I've done some light Aries activities, and I'm involved in the club repeaters from net control and those kind of things. So those are the things that I do most in ham radio. So you can kind of find out anything, but as this word cloud shows, there's a lot of different things in ham radio you can learn. And this one's old. It doesn't even have things like FT8 or RIDI or whatever. I saw the other day there were, so every year there's a contest for who can make the most RIDI digital mode contests. And some people broke out, 1950s teletype machines to make RIDI contacts, because that's how they originally used to work. So whatever it takes, there's probably a group of folks out there. And actually, I'll add probably a group of folks in the Metro Atlanta area too, because I can think of people who are totally into just emergency communications, or there's a guy, Greg Mann, who is Mr. Parks on the air to me, and he's out there every weekend doing a park. Or there's Steve Garrison. He's in the Alfred Memorial Club. He is Mr. Teletype. He changed his call sign to N4TTY because he likes to play with the old teletype. So there's a lot of people out there and a lot of people who can get you interacting with things that you like to do. So a lot of what you're going to see in the recommendations is getting involved with other people so you can find out and get experience going through. So the first tip I've got is getting social between clubs and electronic. And I know a couple of people are on here just because I posted it to the ham radio group on Reddit and said, somebody had asked a question and I said, hey, I'm going to be doing this. You may want to come by and check it out. So from an electronic perspective, there's a whole world of people out there on the internet who can help you out. There's a hashtag ham radio is pretty popular on Twitter. There are multiple Facebook groups. The ARC has one. There's equipment traders, QRP folks, other clubs. They're all out there on Facebook as well. And I mentioned a couple of Reddits. There's amateur radio and ham radio. And I couldn't tell you the difference, except supposedly one is tougher to post in than the other. So see where it goes. One of the first things you're probably going to do after you get your license, though, is go to QRZ.com and set up a page, because QRZ is kind of the clearinghouse for your ham radio information. So Rob actually went to mine and read off a bunch of accomplishments that I've put there over time. But this is really a place where you can just go and say, here's my call sign, and here's how to get a hold of me. So email address or whatever. That'll allow people to, if they hear you on there, to say, hey, I want to talk to you about something, or send you a QSL card, or you can start listing things you did or things you want to do. So it's a good place to put a little bio. It's kind of the de facto place where everybody looks to find people in ham radio when they're looking people up. In fact, my niece called me and said, I saw this ham radio license plate and it's call sign close to yours. Who is it? I said, well, I'll find out. I went on to QRZ and here's the guy. And he's, standing on a gray ship out in the harbor in Virginia, and he's got his handheld and he talks about how he also likes to garden. So it was just that easy to find somebody. So if you haven't set yourself up on QRZ, it's a great place to just provide some basic contact information and interact. Even though we're in a pandemic right now, you're all part of a club event right now. And I think being part of at least one radio club is a great idea. And in fact, when I was first ham, I auditioned a couple of clubs. I went around Metro Atlanta and I saw a couple of different things that they did. And I went to not only meetings, but events to see what I liked and what I didn't like and how I wanted to interact. And it didn't take long for me to get joined up with the Atlanta Radio Club. And I've been pretty much part of the club for 12 years now in various ways. So that's been a lot of fun for me. Clubs have events. They're a great way to just find a clearinghouse for local events. They also give you a reason to get on the air. Most clubs have some sort of radio net through a repeater every week, or through, if you're joining a club that does HF, you may be in a club that is on air every day. So there are clubs that are on in the morning on 40 meters, like South Cars and East Cars, that you can just go in and check in every day. Plenty of options depending on what you're into. But it lets you stay up to date and hear about new things and hear about things that are changing. So most recently, a lot of discussion in various clubs I'm in and groups about the new ham radio licensing costs and how the FCC has changed that. So it just gives you a basic level of information. And when there's not a pandemic, it gives you a reason to get out of the house too. So Atlanta Radio Club has VE events. It has used to have something called the Second Sunday Tech Session that would allow you to go and do hands-on build. There's club meetings. There's usually a meeting plus an event for most clubs every month when we're not sheltering in place. So that's the fun part. And joining a club is easy because in Metro Atlanta, show your new license and you're going to get in free. So that's pretty cool that all the clubs are doing this in the area. First year free, so you can really get signed up and get participating in club events. Anything I'm missing out when we talk about clubs?
Is there a list of clubs around if someone wants to know what's there?
I didn't list it here because I wanted to keep it a little bit more generic, but on
the internet, one, yeah, that's out there.
The closest thing I have right now is on my webpage, N4BFR.com. There's a list of local nets, and that ties back to events. You know what? I take it back. There is AtlantaHams.com has a list of almost all the radio clubs I could find anyway in the greater kind of 10 county metro Atlanta area. So from Walton County all the way over to on the Arkansas border, there's a list of clubs there. So folks can go over to AtlantaHams.com and find the club. Thanks for reminding me, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay. So you are going to.
I got something to add.
Oh yeah, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah. And also for new hams, it's a nice way if you have questions. It's a nice forum to go. If not at club meetings, I always tell people, if they have a lunch or a dinner or a pizza or something before the meeting, it's a nice opportunity to sit with people. If you have a specific question, there'll be 6 or 7 folks around the table, and you can always ask that question and get some focused discussion on what your problem is to find a resolution. So that's another little thing that clubs add to your repertoire of ham radio activities.
If you're in a place with 6 or 7 hams, you're going to get 10 answers, 10 different answers.
That's okay. If they all lead you to the right direction, you won't go wrong.
Yep. And I'll also say that everybody knows a guy. So if Bob didn't know the answer, he probably knows somebody. If I said, hey, Bob, do you know somebody that's really good at 6-meter antennas? He could probably point me in the right direction of Mr. 6-meter that he knows who could help me out with something like that. So just asking the question kind of helps get the contact started and the spidering out there for sure. And that's another thing. Atlanta Radio Club used to have, again, pre-pandemic, and hopefully it'll have it again post-pandemic, a Friday lunch. So you could come out and check out people. I think the North Bolton has Saturday breakfast, and a lot of clubs have other things as well. So there's definitely reasons to get out once we all take the masks off. All right, moving on to equipment a little bit. As I said earlier, I'm not going to recommend your first radio because I think it's really a personal decision based on what you want to do. And I don't think there's one perfect first radio for a ham as they get started. I do think that there are classes of radio that you want to get into. And this is why I said, and I've seen this advice given a lot of times, so I'm not the only one that says it, is get a decent radio and listen. The two things that I qualify as a decent radio is to start off with, unless you just want to be a listener for the most part, you may want to stay away from a Baofeng or a Woshan or whatever, inexpensive Chinese radio is out there right now. And I'm not saying it's a bad radio. What I'm saying is it's a difficult radio. It's not a first radio experience radio. It's very hard to program and understand all the things that go with it. And there are things that could go sideways if you're not programming it right. And similar things with SDRs. They're great to listen to, but they have different sensitivities. Each one can be a little finicky at times. They're nice in a lot of ways. But again, if you want to get involved in that big universe, the big universe is people that have Icom, Yaesu, Kenwood, Motorola, radios of that group. Alinco is another fairly popular group of radios. So it reduces the frustration factor if you think about one of those radios, because they're much better documented. They want people to come back and make sure they can use their radios. Not only that, but there's a whole subsystem of groups that help program those radios, whether it's freeware like Chirp or paidware like RT Systems. That there's a universe out there that's really designed to support these radios in a lot of different ways. The third reason, and this is my personal reasoning, is when I get started, I want to make sure that the problem is me and not the radio. So if I bought a used radio from a guy and I'm not quite sure if it works, and hams are mostly trustworthy, but there's probably been 1 or 2 cases of somebody selling a radio that didn't work along the line. I wanted to make sure that whatever I bought and was trying to use was something that probably worked. And if there was a problem, it was a problem between the microphone in the chair, or the keyboard in the chair, or the key in the chair. And so that was my reason for starting off with something more commercial and something more popular, and then coming back around later on to, can I play with the Baofeng to make it work for APRS, or can I get a Motorola to do an old commercial Motorola to do DMR? So no worries buying used. I just think it's a good idea to start with something popular, and that's my thinking on kind of getting into radios. Now, once you've got that lined up, my other question is, what are you into? Depending on what radio you want will really depend on what you're into. If you're into DX, you're not going to want to buy a Baofeng. That's not going to do anything for you. If you're into working satellites, there's some really specific radios that work really well for that. And getting a ICOM 5100 may not be the best for that. Great for D-Star. I'm not spending a lot of time using it to work satellites, but everybody's mileage may vary. So there's probably, again, an easy button way of finding a popular radio that's going to do what you want it to do. If you want to do digital, an ICOM 5100 is a great radio and a great place to get started on D-Star. If you want to do DMR, there are radios like, I wanted to say Tentec, but that's not right. There's a bunch of radios out there that are DMR ready.
TYT.
What's that?
TYT.
TYT, Titera, and a few others have some good radios that are really not in the $100 to $200 range for decent handhelds, so they're not really that expensive either. The second piece of advice that I go into on this is listening. And, it really helps a lot to sit down and hear what you're talking about before you jump in. So it's not always possible and plausible to do that, I'll admit, but it is definitely good operating practice to try and give it a bit of a listen first. And I think that goes not just for a repeater conversation where you may be in the middle of a net and you need to understand how the net control flow is going before you jump in. But if you're on HF and you're doing contesting, there is a definite flow to how you get in and send your call sign and give specific information and take specific information back. So if you sit and listen for a couple of minutes, you're going to pick up how that flow goes. You're also going to pick up how that, I'll just use HF as an example. You're going to pick up how that operator picks people out. So if he's calling CQ and going right away and picking up people, maybe he's got 4 or 5 people that are trying to get in at the same time that you can hear, but he's always taking the last one. So when you're trying to call him, you wait a tick or two after he says CQ before you try and call in so you can be that last one. Or he always picks the first one. Whichever way it goes, you want to try and play with that a little bit and understand that. So a bunch of good reasons why it's good to get a decent radio and listen. And I will pause here to see if there's anybody that has any thoughts on picking a radio or getting started with a radio?
Yeah, I have one. Is that if you get into a club, you can ask other ham radio operators what they think the best radio is and what brand to get. When I did that, the first couple of meetings, I found out a brand that people recommended, and I got a radio from them, and I was satisfied with it. I still have it.
Perfect. Well, and I'll bet the other thing is that person probably said, oh, and by the way, this radio is hard to program. Here's a file I put together. So you didn't have to write one yourself.
When I got my license, a friend of mine took me over the next day to ham radio outlet, which we're lucky to have, a real ham radio store in town, right, the candy store. And yeah, he showed me the radios, and I never heard of some. I had never heard of Yaesu at that. They were, it was all very foreign, and he did just like you're saying, David. He had the information, and in fact, he said he suggested to get a radio that he did not have, and he went a different way, but he said try this one, and he was exactly right. That was it was an HT, and it worked very well, and yeah, he was I guess my first Elmer. But yeah, it's the radio. I agree with what you're saying certainly about get one that works so you know if there's a problem, it's you and not the radio.
And I'll tell you, similar story, Rob. I passed my technician test at about 10:30 in Marietta, and by noon I was in ham radio outlet buying a radio. So luckily I met WD4DX there, and he steered me in the right direction with a great antenna and helped me out there. So I lucked out as far as that goes. But yes, ham radio outlet is a great asset for the Metro Atlanta community for sure.
One thing I recommend to new as well as older hams, if you're going to buy a radio, you can get online and get the manual and download the manual and read the manual before you get the radio. And that will give you some idea of the complexity of using it, as well as tell you how to use the darn thing.
Well, that's a great idea. And that could even be a good way to compare radios you may be interested in to see the complexity of it. Like I've got an ICOM ID51A, and if you don't program that thing by the computer, you're not programming that thing. Now, for my Kenwood D74, you at least have some buttons and knobs and stuff that you can twirl around. So there's definitely some differences between the touch factor and the accessibility of features factor when you do that kind of thing. So that's a great tip, Bob.
I think we're going to have a program down the road on how to operate one of these radios. I can't tell you what all the buttons on my radio do, on Newt's radio does. And there are I think a lot of people like that. And there are so many buttons, right, knobs that are in common between all these radios, between the fancy ones and the cheap ones. They're all going to have tuning, they're all going to have volume, they're all going to have other type of things. And so I think we're going to talk about that. We had a program on that once, Jen, and I think we're going to try and do it again just to help people along.
Cool idea. I'm sure I could pick up a few things too, because on my screen's gone to sleep now, but on my HF radio, I'm sure I couldn't tell you the difference between noise blanking and noise reduction. And I know I can go in and turn them on and off and it makes it sound different, but I just don't know exactly what that is. So I suppose I could RTFM at some point, and maybe I'll have to do that. All right. We're coming up on halfway through, and I want to introduce you to the term Elmer. So Elmer sounds, I actually knew a guy named Elmer from when I grew up. He was a friend of the family. He was Uncle Elmer, not in a creepy way, but just a friend of the family. And he was actually a bit of a know-it-all. So I always associated an Elmer with a bit of a know-it-all. Your friend Elmer is somebody you've met at a club meeting or somebody that can help you out with a particular thing. So Here's myself with the N4EWT up at the, where are we? We were at the Dayton Ham Fest, and we're hanging out with the Ham Tog Live Pig. So I don't think the pig in the middle is really going to help you get a lot of ham radio help. But an Elmer is really just the generic name for the person that helps me with ham stuff. It could be multiple people too. I have an Elmer who was really good at kind of helping me understand all the different repeaters in the area, and he kept this really detailed repeater list that I could go in and run through and check out what I could hear and what was talking when. I think everybody in this club would say Bill Perkins is a great Elmer when it comes to building your own HF antenna. So if you want to build a wire dipole or a long wire antenna, you wouldn't go wrong having a chat with KB4KFT. I mentioned Newt earlier. He's the guy on the right in this picture, and he is my CW Elmer, which I'm sure he's very disappointed in my CW experience, but he's also a guy who I can call up and say, hey, guess what? I'm on a ship and I'm playing and I want to try and make a CW contact. Can you get online and listen to my really bad code for a minute? And he has actually done that and helped me out. So it's going to be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And who knows, an Elmer may end up being one of your lifelong friends down the road as well. So asking people for help and kind of interacting with them is a really good way to get going. And I think most hams, it's the 80-20 rule when it comes to anything else. But I think most hams who have been in the hobby more than a few months expect to be an Elmer. And maybe you both don't know everything, but maybe it's just something that's interesting enough that you want to go learn and try. I know from talking with Newt, one of the things that he's really wanted to do is a balloon launch and have a high atmosphere balloon, and we haven't done it yet, but I'm sure that at some point we're going to learn all the right things and get that going. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to explore different things in the hobby by having an Elmer or having a lot of Elmers, and don't limit yourself to one, I would say.
Yeah, now that I'm down here closer to Canaveral, maybe I can get that balloon up. Hi.
Maybe you can hop a ride on the Falcon 9 launch tonight or something, if you hurry.
You may find out, Newt, that you're too close to be able to do anything, launch anything.
I suspect that's closer to the truth, and I'll probably have to travel a few hundred miles to launch a balloon.
I know a lot of folks, for some reason, Alabama, I've heard, is a really good place. Northern Alabama is a really good place to launch those kind of balloons. So may just require a couple of day road trip at some point.
Yes.
If you want to launch a balloon, your biggest problem nowadays is going to be to find the helium.
Oh, really? Are we having a helium shortage?
Oh yeah, we've had for a while now.
A lot of guys are using hydrogen now. Yeah.
Oh, the humanity!
Wow. A lot of brave guys.
Yeah.
Or stupid guys. One of the two.
All right, let me jump in with a couple of more things here. An event is a really fun thing to participate in. I personally really enjoy participating in the Peachtree Road Race, which happens around here every year. And it seems like they need 50 or 60 hams to really work all the communications well for that. And they're always asking for one or two more. And it doesn't require a lot of experience, but it does allow you to get your feet wet in repeaters. It's emergency communications because it's a net control kind of a setup. And you can do it without feeling like you're the be all and end all person that is everything's on your shoulders. You're going to start out at a water stop and telling people you need more Dixie cups or gauze or Vaseline or something like that through net control. Those are the kind of things you're going to do early on. but it does allow you to get experience to help out with the Christmas parade or the holiday race or those kind of things. Again, these are a lot of things that are not happening due to the pandemic, but when the pandemic is over with, definitely a place to just, hey, give up a Saturday morning and stick your toe in and go help with a bike race or something like that, and meet the people that do those kind of things. So great emergency communications practice there. Another event that is hard to get to at the moment, but certainly will be coming up again in June, is Field Day. Last year, everybody kind of sheltered in place on Field Day, and they didn't really get to do too much socially. I think a few clubs got together, but for the most part, everybody kind of stayed home and operated from there. But in general, what happens is you set up in a park and you get some sandwiches, or you cook some hamburgers, or somebody brings in pizza. I've never been to a field day where there hasn't been really good food of some kind. And you take turns making a few HF contacts and seeing how somebody sets up their antennas. I think at the last field day I was at with the Atlanta Radio Club, I hadn't seen people using these HF loop antennas until I was at field day. So that was a new thing for me being in ham radio. And you learn about propagation, all that general and extra stuff. If you're a technician and you want to kind of get your feet wet in HF, right now your options really are a limited amount of Morse code or a limited amount of contacts on 10 meters. Those are okay, but 10 meters really isn't open in the solar cycle right now, so there's not a lot of activity there. And while Morse code is interesting, it's hard to get started with, so you may feel like you're jumping into the deep end of the pool. Field day allows you to go and sit with a Elmer or a knowledgeable operator, or just someone who wants to bring their radio and operate and start talking with other people over HF. So if you want to get started in HF, field day is a great way to do it. In lieu of field day, because we're not social distancing, I would say Parks on the Air is an idea where if you can find somebody who's going out to set up in a state park or a federal park around here and will let you look over their shoulder for a couple hours, you can operate using their license privileges and get on HF on some of the cool 20 meter, 40 meter bands that are going quickly. There's also a winter field day event. Same kind of thing. Not as many clubs participate here because it's like our winter when it's cold is summer in Australia and New Zealand when it's warm, and they get out and it's more of a southern hemisphere event. But you can find some activity on winter field day usually around as well. Anybody want to jump in and share a field day story?
I just have one thing I can add to that. If you're out doing a Parks on the Air activation, or even a Summits on the Air activation, you have an HT, you can get on the air under your own license and make your own contacts. And if you tell enough friends that you're going to be on a certain frequency, maybe you can get them to come out to your event and make contacts that way. And you can actually get your own Parks on the Air activation.
Yeah, Parks on the Air is definitely fairly popular. For me, it's a great way. If I want to go on and spend 20 minutes and just work 3 or 4 people, I can generally go to the pota.us site, which is their spotting site, and I can find 2 or 3 people to work right away that are active. So there's always somebody active on there. And this was sneaky and interesting, and I'll be interested to see how it comes out. But somebody I saw in one of the parks groups posted that they were actually going to be wintering in a qualified park in Florida. So if you need park 2929 or whatever it is, just give me a call or leave me a message and we'll set this up. And so he will have hundreds of contacts by the end of the winter, because he will just kind of be settled down in his camper in the park. So I think that's kind of cool. A cool way to do it as well. I've done, Rob mentioned this earlier, from a Parks on the Air. It used to be National Parks on the Air, and Newt and I traveled and we did dry Tortugas Park, which is the southernmost national park in the U.S. We also traveled to do Acadia National Park, which is the northeasternmost park in the U.S. And then just so happened that year I was taking a cruise, so I was able to operate in Alaska and knock off that corner with Glacier Bay Park. And then I took my HT and did a contact from Cabrillo National Park in San Diego. So focused on that 1 year, I was able to operate from all four corners of the U.S. So that was a fun little challenge that I put on myself, but it's all those kind of things you can do inside of an event like Field Day or Parks on the Air. And I mentioned earlier auditioning different clubs. My first year of Field Day, I went to 4 different club sites. I went to Atlanta Club, I went to the Alfred Club, I went to the North Fulton Club, and I went to the Lockheed Club at the time, which is not around anymore. And I got to see how all 4 of those operated differently. And let me tell you, the Atlanta Club is a nice casual day in the park. The Alfred Club is a big family event. The Lockheed Club, it was really 3 guys in a room playing radio. And the North Fulton Club was like being in a full-on contest mode with individual band tents and filters and antennas and all those different kinds of things. So just by going to 4 different places around Metro Atlanta, I picked up 4 totally different ham radio experiences just going through Field Day. So it's a great way to go and experience a bunch of different things.
The 4-day and the 4 guys in the room thing was nice because it was air conditioned.
It was, you're right.
This is the end of June, and some years it's been really hot.
Amen to that, brother. Okay, so finally on the list, this is number 6, is make some damn contacts. So all of these I've told you to listen and do these kind of things, but you're going to have more fun if you actually get out and give it a try. So get with your Elmer, get with your friend, get with your new radio, and try a satellite contact, or just get on Echolink. You can do that with your cell phone. You don't need to have an HT or any kind of radio to get on Echolink. Play digital. The most popular digital mode right now is FT8, and it's really kind of cool to think that you're going to get onto HF and use this mode that's really designed to be a low noise level mode, and to understand that that was invented by a physicist who's also a ham radio guy. I mean, this guy's won a Nobel Prize, and in his spare time, he's writing software for ham radio. And so it's kind of cool when you see all the different elements in the hobby. And like I said, it's a mile wide and an inch deep. Simplex, if you're doing SOTA on the air, summits on the air, from the top of a mountain, you go up to the top of Stone Mountain, bring your HT, start yelling at people on 146.82. You're going to have people that come back to you. You can bounce off the moon. You can do Morse code. It really doesn't matter. And I could probably rattle off 5 or 6 more things. But I think ultimately in ham radio, your enjoyment is equal to the amount of time you spend behind the mic or the keyboard or the Morse code key, depending on what you like. And you're not going to reach, DXCC, the Digital Century, the DX Century Club in your first day or your first week or maybe even your first month, unless you want to. But you're definitely not going to reach it until you pick up the mic and start talking. And everybody's been there, and everybody's had a first contact, and some have been good and some have been bad. My first contact was actually on the Chattahoochee repeater, and I ended up talking to a guy who was a ham who worked in the same office building that I did. And just totally at random, he threw his call sign out. I responded. We talked for 20 minutes, and I figured out where he was. Went down the next day, met him, shook his hand, said thank you for the contact, and that was it. My second contact was on the North Fulton repeater during their TechNet, and they had to teach me how to put the right PL tone into my radio so I could actually make the contact. Those things are going to happen. Everybody expects it. Everybody was new, and nobody within a good sense of reason is going to get down on you for making contacts or having problems while you're trying to make contacts, and we'll help you out. I regularly hear on the Sunday Night Net, hey, try and go, your signal's a little low. Try and go to a higher spot. Try and increase your power. Be closer to the microphone. It's those kind of little things that you're going to pick up, and within a few months, you're going to be telling other people, hey, get closer to the microphone. But you're not going to do it until you make that first contact. So don't be so mic shy or keyboard shy or Morse code key shy that you don't ever get in there and make it, because we all had our first contact and not all of them were beautiful. And my first Morse code contact was with N4EWT2, and he will tell you it was not a beautiful contact, but we spent time and we worked it through. So my next one with Dick K2UFT was a little bit better than that. And, if I was desperate on a ship in the middle of the ocean that was sinking, I could probably get out SOS and some latitude and longitude coordinates. So that's all I feel like I need at the moment, but your mileage may vary. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get through the last couple slides here. Just review of the 6 things I mentioned. Find some social media, find a club, find both. There's nothing that says you can't join a wide variety of things and then filter down to see what you like. And I mentioned social media, but some clubs like Atlanta Radio Club and others have have mailing lists as well, and some are more active than others. Like, for instance, there's another group around here called Southeast DX Club. That group is mostly active via email versus a Facebook group or a website or those kind of things. So feel like there's multiple alternatives to find clubs and get involved. Get a radio. Again, I kind of gave you the tips of what I think is best, and I'm not saying reach out beyond your means to get started, but I am saying try and make sure that you're getting something that you think is supported and something you can get involved with. Find an Elmer. There's a whole bunch of people who have jumped up on this group, and I'll bet you anyone on this Zoom call right now would be glad to answer questions. Events like Field Day or Parks on the Air or visiting those kind of places are great. And then make some damn contacts and don't feel limited to your particular group. If you decide at the end of the day, hey, I had a ball making satellite contacts and that's really what I wanted to do, there's a whole group you could spend all your time with doing that. There's another group that you can spend your time with just making contacts with marine, with ships at sea. There's hurricane hunters. I can keep going on, but you really get the idea here. So find something interesting, make some damn contacts. If it wasn't that interesting to you, there's 10 other things out there you can try that could be more interesting, but don't be afraid to dip your feet in the water. Try DX contest, try APRS, try DMR. Those are the kind of things that I think you can get into. Folks, my Elmers of a certain age here, what am I missing out on as far as things that we talked about? There's band plans and those kind of things, and people can always find those, but I think finding those is probably accomplished in this list of finding an Elmer or joining an event or those kind of things. You're going to naturally fall into some of that stuff. Any additional thoughts?
Yes, one thing I'd like to mention is that especially for a new ham, YouTube can be your friend. If you go to YouTube and type in amateur radio or ham radio, you'll find dozens, if not hundreds, of different sites that where people have channels. And if you type in specifically, for example, getting my first ham radio contact, you'll find a number of videos out there that will help you. Don't be afraid to join one of the or subscribe to some of the channels. That will help you out a whole lot. You'll learn a lot.
Yeah, there's this guy, N4BFR. He's got a YouTube channel. I would definitely recommend checking that out and subscribe. I got to get to 1,000, so maybe they'll send me $1 or $2 one day.
And he's a ham talking about hams.
And he's a ham talking about hams for sure.
I would, when you're talking about clubs, I have to say the number one club that's been around the longest. I guess it's a league, not a club. ARRL. I would encourage anyone that's new in the hobby, the avocation, to join ARRL. It's a great organization. They're a bunch of folks that are us, and they're working for us and doing all they can to keep our bands open and help us out and spread the news. So
That's great. I'm going to go back in, and I'm sure that somebody along the line, I'll be back here somewhere hosting this again down the road. I'm going to add that back into the join a club and making sure that we highlight ARRL, because it is the National League. So it does give you kind of the best view of what's going on in amateur radio in America. I actually joined the Radio Society of Great Britain one year just to get their information, because it's different and it just gives me a different view on it. They'll send you the magazine and you learn from that perspective as well. So ARRL send you a magazine every month. And it's about the price of a magazine subscription anyway. So it'll give you the opportunity to keep up on radio and read all these kinds of different things for little to no cost every month. All righty.
I can add something just quickly.
Go ahead, Rob.
I can always add things, right? Now,
Yes.
one of the surprising things when I was in New Hampshire, one of the many things, was the ability of people to remember names and call signs. You know, I would hear people mention someone's call sign, they go, oh, it's so-and-so. And I go, how did they do that? And they go, oh, don't worry, you get it. And I go, there's just too much. It's names and letters and numbers. And you know what? It happens. It happens. All of a sudden, you got it. I guess you've heard it enough. And you just, when you hear a call sign, you think of the name. When you hear the name, you think of the call sign. I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Let me pause for 1 second before I wrap up. I know we had a couple of newer hams and non-hams on here. Anybody who got their license in the last 6 months or a year or doesn't have their license yet, have any questions or comments from what I've been talking about the last 40 minutes or so?
Don't be shy.
Yeah. I will tell you that maybe while you're thinking of your question or comment, well, if you're a little mic shy here, N4BFR at ARRL.net or Jim at N4BFR.com. That will get you to the guy on the left side of the picture, which is me. And I will, if I don't know it, I'll get you pointed in the right direction for sure. So we can see what we can find together if you're just struggling to find an Elmer or find a group that kind of fits what you're interested to do. So I am open for questions and comments here, there, or just about any place else. All right, John, I think I'm going to turn it back to you because I think that's it for my presentation tonight.
All right, Jim, thanks for agreeing to do this tonight. And hopefully some of the newbies, if they have some questions, will don't be afraid to give anybody a call that you've seen here tonight. If you recognize the call sign, you can look it up. I'm sure you can find an address, but certainly take advantage of Jim's knowledge and contact him if you have a question. And if you are from out of state, I know Zach I think he said he was here from Memphis, maybe. If you want to find information about some local clubs in your area, you can find that on the ARRL site, which is ARRL.net. And there's a place in there to go searching for local clubs in your area. So, and that's a really big part of being a new ham is getting involved in a club so that you can find those Elmers, even maybe borrow some equipment from some folks and try some things out until you're able to decide on your own equipment. And that's a good way to get started too. I know the club's done that over the years where we've loaned equipment out and friends have done so. And so don't be afraid to get involved in a club and use that as an avenue of helping you get established in the hobby.
Yeah, I think about you say about loan equipment. I think about things like getting involved with building an antenna. There's that antenna analyzer that really helps you when you're building an antenna, but the cheapest one is about $300. But so if you can find an Elmer that would, come over for a beer on a Saturday afternoon and plug that thing into your antenna until you guys get it tuned right, most of the guys I know with one of those things would be more than happy to do that kind of thing.
I got a
Yeah,
comment.
even helping.
Go ahead.
Even helping put up an antenna or start just helping you in many aspects of getting started in the hobby. I'm sure one of the people in a club would be more than willing to come over, and especially if a free beer is involved. But go ahead, Rob.
No, I lost it. Too late.
Oh, sorry. All right. Well, yeah, like I said, take advantage of Jim if you N4BFR at ARRL.net. Give him a shout if you have a question, and I'm sure he can help find the answer from somebody if he doesn't have it. And of course, once again, congratulations to him as Hammer of the Year for 2020 in the ARC. All right. Well, quick little bit of business. Go ahead.
Find somebody. Message, comment, question out on any of those, and
do we have
get
some?
an answer pretty quickly.
Okay. Were you asking about questions in the chat? No. Okay.
Oh, I've got something that there's a website out there, and I posted that on the chat. If you want to find all the hams that are around you, just see, who's around you. There's a website that I posted on there that'll do that for you. You put in your call sign, and it looks up your call sign, gets your address, and will show you a map of everybody around your address. You type in an address, it'll show you everything around that address. The zip code, and the grid square, the Maidenhead grid square. And I found that there were a couple on my block, and I didn't know that. I guess it was surprising. So I'm going to actually try and find one of them and talk to them. But there are more hams around than you think.
Yeah, there's probably one or two in your own neighborhood. You just don't realize it.
Yeah, the sex offender
Philadelphia called me, and she said, "Hey, I saw a ham tag in the parking lot at the local grocery store. It looked just like your call." And real quick, while I was talking to her, I said, "Yeah, and the guy lives right across the street from me." So she goes, "How'd you do that?" And I was using that mapping program, so she didn't realize there was a ham across the street from her. But so it's a neat thing to look at to see what's in your neighborhood.
Yeah, QRZ will show you. If you look up somebody on QRZ, it'll show you where they are, and it will show you what direction and how far they are, from you. In both directions, in the close direction, and then the other way around the Earth direction, which some people actually get working. That's the way they hit them on the radio.
All right, real quick, while I've got a couple before anybody tries to slide out on us, there is an event coming up. Let's see if I still have it up. I may have killed it, but I'll shoot. Nope, that's not it. I must have killed it. But anyways, there's an event coming up, and I'll post it to the IO group, and maybe we'll put a link on the website. It's called Winter Heat. It's a simplex event. It's actually taking place up in Illinois, and it's really a regional event where they're just doing Illinois and the surrounding states, but they kind of open it up to anybody that wants to participate. So I thought I'll throw it out there. It's for the entire month of January, so they've already got a head start on us. But it's an attempt to make as many contacts as you can using simplex on 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and I believe there's some digital involved in there also. So I was going to post that so you look at it, but what I'll do is I'll post it on the IO website. You go to their website, you sign up, and there's a couple of us here in Georgia that are already signed up, but not really had a chance to make many contacts because when you've only got 5 or 6, and they're spread out around the entire state. It's kind of hard to make the contacts, but take a look at it. And if you're interested in it, sign up for it. They're looking at possibly doing this as a nationwide event next year or the year after, depending on what kind of feedback they get. They've had a lot of success with it the last couple of years they've done it. And I'll even throw it out there that we'll find whoever makes the most contacts in Georgia, we'll give them a winner heat plaque, commemorative plaque, so that you can brag about it. So I'll send it to the club IO group, and I'll also post it on the Facebook page and maybe the web page itself, the ARC web page. Go to it, sign up, make contacts. You'll have to log them. You can read about it. It's real simple. You log your contact, and the other person, if you log it first, they just confirm it. If you log it and nobody else confirms that contact, you get 1 point. If you log it or they log it and you confirm it or they confirm it, you get 10 points. So let's give it a stab and see what we can do with Simplex. There's a list of frequencies they're using, and all the information can be found on the document that I'll post on, or the link I'll post on those websites. There's also at the end of the month, there's the winter field day. I thought we'd give that a try. It'll be operated similar to last year's summer field day, although it's not officially run by the ARRL. It's run in the same fashion, and I think this year we're also allowed to continue to use, I got to get some more information, we'll post it on the website, but you'll be able to use your own call sign and give the club credit. So I'd like to do this as a club thing where we all get on, make contacts, and then give the credit to the club, and we'll see if we can win a club award or something in this event. And then that'll lead us up to the summer field day, where we can hopefully by that time, we can actually be doing that in person at a park somewhere with some great food like Jim talked about. So we'll post those two events upcoming. And like I said, the Simplex event's already taken off and rolling. So I'll post in some of the other groups around town. The more people we can get in the Atlanta area doing it, the better chance we'll have of making some contacts. And hopefully next year, like I said, they may make it a nationwide event. So
I got a comment on that, on the Simplex. It's
what's
on,
that?
the Simplex is on, you said 2 meters and 440, which means technicians, it's open to everybody, including technicians. It's not
Yeah, it's open to everybody, and they've got, like I said, they've got a certain set of frequencies that they're listing as, and from what I've seen so far, the I don't have it in front of me. It was one of the Simplex 2 meter Simplex analog frequencies is getting the most activity. So that may be our best bet, is to pick that first 2 meter analog and use that as our kind of our way to get people getting on the same Simplex frequency and making contact. So, but we'll put that out there and see if we can have some fun with it. And maybe next year it'll be a nationwide thing that we can do. That's about it for activities coming up. I think, do you have a membership report, Aid, and maybe some finances or something? You're on mute.
Yep. Okay. Yes, we have 69 paid up members and New Hams and life members and such. 69 members, and a little over $18,000 in the bank.
Okay.
The only expenses that we may have coming up are some membership renewals and
scholarship.
Oh, scholarship, yes.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we sponsor a scholarship through the ARRL scholarship fund. Last year, it was given to a gentleman and youngster in Decatur. I'm still working on trying to put together an article on him for our newsletter, so we get to see where our support's going. So hopefully, I'll have that finished up in the next month. So we'll be, I think, I can't remember if the deadline's already come and gone for people to apply for that. But they'll take, of course, our money whenever we can give it to them. But so that's something we've agreed to do over the years, and we've agreed to continue to do. So it's part of that giving back to the hobby part. So Programs. What's next on our list for programs coming up? Rob?
Yeah, our next program in February is Dave Slaughter, W3DS. I can remember that, Dave Slaughter. And he's going to be talking about ham radio programs. There's a lot of software out there, free software all over the place for various things to do with ham radio, make your life easier. Look up things. I know, like satellites. You know, if you're trying to do satellites, there are all these programs that'll show you the satellites overhead, when they're going to be there, and a lot of software. So he's taken about 80 programs that are around the net, and he put them together on a CD, and he distributes these with software for a Raspberry Pi. If you have a Raspberry Pi, you have a complete system that you can boot up, and you know, have all these programs that you can pick from. He just released a version of it for the PC, and he's going to be telling us about that, the new version, in our February meeting. He's pretty active. He's had a lot of sessions on it. Should be good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. And if y'all have any suggestions or wants or needs for programs, anything in particular you might like to hear about, please do get in touch with Rob to help make his job a little easier coming up with some quality programs. We've got quite a list to work from at the moment, but you never know, you may suggest something that hits us at just the right time, and we can find someone who's willing to present the information. So if nothing else, to let us know what kinds of programs you'd like to see. Just reach out to Rob and say, hey, I'd like to see more on satellites or whatever, or antenna building or something like that, so we can kind of tailor it to what y'all'd like to see. So that'll be a big help.
Yeah, right now we're tailoring it to what I want to see. And I would love to, we're a club, and that's what we're here for. So I really prefer, coming up with something that in response to what the members want. So, yeah, let me
And
know.
if you have an itch to write, we're trying to get the newsletter back up and running. So if you have an itch to write about something, you're more than welcome to submit information. If you're not sure that you can put it in a coherent set of paragraphs, try to get us something, and we'll clean it up and put it together into an article and get it into the newsletter for you. We're always looking for that kind of information. We've had some really good newsletters in the past when people have stepped up and picked a topic they really like and know enough about to feel comfortable writing something. So don't worry about the typos. We can clean those up before they go to print. So please remember the newsletter too when you're out and about doing things. That's about all I have. I know that the repeater, of course, has been an issue. We're still working on that stuff. So bear with us, and please do get on the repeater. A lot of repeaters these days are very quiet. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry has decided they want to have a repeater, to the point where nobody's on the repeaters because there's so many of them out there instead of having a few. So please do throw the mobile or the HD in the car and take it with you. And when you're out and about, call out. And same thing with this Simplex event right now for the month of January, and especially during drive times in the morning and afternoon, give a shout out and let's chat. And hopefully, like Jim mentioned, we're working on at some point soon, when things get a little better, we're going to try to get back to doing either a Friday lunch or a Saturday breakfast or something, so that we can try to get together and in a safe manner and spend some time together. So that's about all I have. Does anybody have any questions about anything, or any suggestions or comments? All right. Well, thanks again to Jim for being with us tonight to give us another great program. And do put us on the calendar for the first Thursday of every month. So right now it's at 7 p.m. We may bump it back to 7:30 because it seems like everybody seems to come popping in the last minute or two for the next 10 or 15 minutes afterwards. So just to keep an eye on the website and the IO group for more information as we go along. If anybody doesn't have anything else, I guess we'll close it out, and y'all have a wonderful rest of the week and stay safe.